Alright, I'll start with the first part of the story. Here goes. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. Honestly, it's like I woke up one day and the ground beneath me turned into quicksand. My marriage with Lisa had its ups and downs, sure, but I always believed we were solid. We've been together for over 5 years, married for 3, and I always thought she was the one. She was the kind of woman who seemed to have everything under control, confident, sharp-tongued, and a little bitchy at times, but I loved her for it. Yeah, she had her flaws, but who doesn't? From the beginning, I knew she was ambitious, a real firecracker. She's the kind of woman who can argue her way out of anything, and I admired her strength. She's also incredibly beautiful, long dark hair, piercing blue eyes, sharp cheekbones. When I met her, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. But lately, something had changed. Small things at first, she'd be more distant, secretive about her phone, quick to dismiss my questions with a snarky remark. I brushed it off. She's always been a little bitchy, and I figured maybe she was just stressed with work or whatever. But then came the signs that I couldn't ignore anymore, signs that made my stomach turn. Little things, missing her phone for hours, late-night texts that she'd quickly hide or delete, her becoming more dismissive and sharp with her words. I'd catch her glancing nervously at her phone when I was around, and she'd cover it up like she was trying to hide something. I even noticed her smell changed, like she was sneaking out to some strange place. I started feeling paranoid, but I kept telling myself I was just overthinking. The real shock came when I stumbled across something I wasn't supposed to see. I was at home one evening doing some work on my laptop while she was in the other room arguing with someone on the phone. I wasn't trying to spy, I swear. I just happened to glance over and saw a text pop up on her screen. It was from a guy named Jake, and the message said, "Can't wait to see you tonight. It's been too long." My heart stopped. I froze. My hands trembled as I stared, trying to process what I was reading. I didn't even try to hide my shock. I called out her name and she flung the phone down like it was burning her. She came rushing into the room, her face suddenly tense, and I saw the guilt flash across her eyes. I demanded to know what that was about, and she, of course, started spinning her usual bullshit, saying it was just a friend, that Jake was just someone she was helping with some project. She told me I was overthinking, that I was paranoid, that I didn't trust her. But I knew better. My mind was racing. How long has this been going on? How many times had she lied to my face? I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, like I was watching my whole life unravel in front of me. I couldn't even speak at first. All I could do was stare at her, feeling this anger bubbling and mixing with a profound sense of betrayal. I wanted to scream, to cry, to do something, but I just sat there numb. I realized then that the woman I loved, my wife, had been cheating on me with some DNA repair specialist she'd met at her work. Turns out she'd been seeing him behind my back for months. I didn't even know she'd been involved with someone from that elite genetic clinic, someone who was supposed to be fixing her DNA issues, which she always insisted were genetic but really just an excuse for her to meet someone else. That's when I started feeling a strange mix of fury and heartbreak. How could she do this to me? How could she lie so effortlessly? And the thing that burns me even more is that she's so damn good at lying. She's always been bitchy and sharp, but behind all that, she's also incredibly manipulative. She's the queen of excuses. She told me she was working late, that she was helping a friend with a project, that she just needed her space. And she was lying through her teeth. I know that now. I saw the evidence and it hit me like a freight train. That night I sat alone in silence, trying to process what I'd just learned. My mind was a whirlwind. It was hard to believe I was married to someone capable of this kind of betrayal. I never suspected Lisa would do something like this. Honestly, I thought we had a good thing, but now I knew I had to confront her, even if I didn't exactly know what I'd say yet. I just knew I had to face the truth head on. Would you like me to continue with the next part? The next morning, I woke up to the weight of everything pressing down on me. I couldn't sleep after what I'd seen, and my mind kept circling back to that message from Jake. I had so many questions. How long had this been going on? Was she actually in love with him? Was I just some idiot who thought I was enough? I felt angry but also incredibly hurt, like I'd been hit by a truck. The betrayal was sharp and real, and I couldn't shake the feeling that everything I believed about us was now a lie. I decided I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to come home. I needed answers, and I needed them badly. I brewed coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and waited. When Lisa finally got back from whatever late meeting she'd lied about, I was already sitting there, staring at her like I wanted to see through her face. She walked in looking confident and a little bitchy, like she always did when she was trying to act like nothing was wrong. I could tell she sensed something was up because she hesitated just a second before trying to brush past me. I stopped her with a cold stare and said, "We need to talk, now." Her eyes flickered with annoyance, but she tried to play it cool. "What's wrong, babe? You look like you've seen a ghost." I didn't hold back. I showed her the message from Jake on my phone. Her face instantly turned pale. "That's not what it looks like," she muttered, trying to brush it off, her voice shaky. "Oh, really?" I snapped. "It looks like you've been sleeping with some guy behind my back. Tell me, Lisa, how long has this been going on?" She started to deny it, saying I was crazy, that it wasn't what I thought. She told me he was just a friend, that I was overreacting, but I wasn't stupid. I'd seen her lie too many times before. This time there was no way out. I told her I knew everything, that I had proof, and that I wanted the truth, no more lies. Her reaction was classic, defensive, bitchy, and full of excuses. She said, "It's not what you think. I was just trying to get some emotional support. You wouldn't understand, your diagnosis, your gene therapy. I was just trying to cope." That hit me like a punch. She knew about my diagnosis, knew about the gene therapy I was undergoing, something I never told her about because I thought she'd be supportive. Instead, she was out screwing around with some specialist who was supposed to be fixing her DNA. It made my blood boil. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "You have some nerve, Lisa. You're out there cheating on me while I'm fighting for my life with this damn genetic disease. And you think I'd just accept that? You think I'd be okay with you lying and sneaking around?" Her face twisted in anger, a sneer curling her lips. "You're just paranoid. I don't know what you're trying to pull here, but you're crazy if you think I'd mess around with some guy while you're sick. You're always so damn insecure." That was the moment I decided that I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I told her I was done, that I needed space to think, and that she better start being honest with me if she wanted to save what was left of this marriage. She scoffed, called me jealous, and told me I was blowing things out of proportion. I knew then she was never going to admit the truth willingly. But I also realized that I couldn't keep living like this, living in a house filled with lies and betrayal. I needed to take control of the situation. I started planning what I'd do next. I knew I'd need proof, I needed to be sure, and I had to decide if I was going to forgive her or cut her loose. It was clear she didn't give a damn about my feelings, so I decided I'd gather all the evidence I could, screenshots, messages, maybe even bug her phone if I had to. I needed to catch her in the act again, or at least have enough to confront her properly. That whole day, I felt like I was in a fog. My mind was racing, trying to figure out the right move. I kept remembering the times she lied so smoothly, the way she looked at me when I questioned her, that bitchy smirk she gave when she thought she was getting away with something. I hated her for it. I hated the fact that I trusted her, that I believed in us. But the worst part was knowing that I was vulnerable. My health, my future, all that I'd worked for, was somehow connected to her betrayal. My gene therapy, the DNA repair protocols I'd been fighting for, were supposed to make me better, stronger. Instead, they became a symbol of how much I'd lost, my trust, my confidence, my marriage. I knew I had to be careful from here. This wasn't just a typical cheating story. It was intertwined with everything I was fighting for, my health, my life, and my future. I didn't want to just confront her blindly. I wanted to do it right, to catch her off guard and to finally get the truth. I was prepared to do whatever it took, because once I had the proof, there'd be no turning back. Would you like me to continue with the next part? After spending the entire day piecing everything together, I knew I had to act carefully. I couldn't just confront Lisa without solid evidence. I didn't want her to manipulate or deny her way out of it again. My mind was racing. How could I catch her in the act, or at least get undeniable proof? I knew her habits, her routines, how she was always sneaky when she thought she was safe. That's when I decided I'd set up a careful plan to confirm what I already knew, She was cheating and lying, and I needed to catch her red-handed. That night I stayed up late going through her phone and her computer. I looked for any signs of the affair, hidden messages, secret emails, or anything that could give me concrete proof. It wasn't easy, especially because she's pretty tech-savvy and knew how to delete her tracks. Still, I found some suspicious emails and encrypted messages. She'd been exchanging flirty texts with Jake, talking about meeting up, sharing intimate details, joking about DNA repair, because she knew I'd be suspicious if I saw her talking about that openly. I also found out she'd been visiting that clinic more often than she'd admitted. I decided I'd have to go there myself. It was a high-end genetic research facility, and I figured that if I could sneak in, I might catch her or the specialist, Dr. Carter, in the act. I knew it was risky, but I was desperate. I wanted to see the truth with my own eyes, not just suspect it. The next morning, I made my move. I dressed casually, pretending I was just curious about the place, and I headed to the clinic. I managed to get in, acting natural, and I waited near the entrance. I kept my eyes peeled, watching for her or anyone I recognized. It wasn't long before I saw her come out looking flushed and hurried. She was with a tall guy, Dr. Carter, I realized immediately. They seemed to be close, laughing quietly, and she looked like she was trying to hide her face. I quickly snapped a picture with my phone, the evidence I needed. At that moment, my stomach sank. This was real. She was cheating on me with this guy, and she didn't even care. I felt this rage boil up inside me. I'd spent years fighting for my health, my future, and she was out there betraying me with some specialist who was supposed to be fixing her DNA but was clearly doing way more. I decided to follow her, see where she went after leaving the clinic. She went to a hotel nearby, an upscale place I'd seen her use in the past when she wanted to escape for her secret meetings. I felt a sick mixture of heartbreak, anger, and betrayal. I knew I had all I needed now. She was cheating on me. She was lying about everything, and I wasn't going to stand for it anymore. That evening, I sat back at home, going through all the evidence I'd collected. I felt like my world was crumbling. I thought about everything we'd shared, our plans, my health struggles, her supposed love, and how she'd thrown it all away. I didn't cry. I was beyond that. All I felt was a deep, burning need for justice. She had betrayed me in the worst way, and I was determined to make her pay. In my mind, I was already planning my next move. I knew I had to confront her face to face with everything I'd found. But I also wanted her to know I wasn't going to let her lie her way out of this. I wanted her to feel just how deeply I was hurt, how furious I was. Because when trust is broken to this extent, there's no going back. I had to decide whether I'd try to save what was left of us or if I'd finally cut her loose for good. But what I didn't realize that night, what I couldn't see coming, was just how much this revelation would change everything. My plans, my future, my very sense of who I am. All I knew was I'd gathered enough evidence. Now it was time to face her and finally get some real answers. Would you like me to continue with the next part? The day I finally confronted Lisa was a whirlwind. I didn't want to just blurt out everything I'd found. I needed to be calculated, sharp. I was furious, but I also needed her to understand that I wasn't just some fool being played. I wanted her to see the depth of my anger, the betrayal I felt. So I waited until she got home from work, trying to keep my composure, which was damn hard. When she opened the door, I was already sitting on the couch, my phone in my hand. Her eyes immediately flicked to the screen, probably sensing I had something big to say. I didn't waste any time. "Lisa," I said calmly but firmly, "I know everything. I know about Jake, about your visits to that clinic, about your lies, and I've got proof." I slowly placed my phone on the coffee table, revealing the pictures I took. Her leaving the clinic with Carter, her sneaking around that hotel. Her face went white and her jaw clenched. "Oh, come on," she scoffed, trying to dismiss it all. "You're overreacting. That's just some doctor helping me out with my DNA. It's not what you think." I cut her off sharply. "Really? Because I saw her, your own words, coming out of that clinic with him. I saw you going into that hotel last night. I've got the messages where you're flirting with him. You think I'm stupid. I've been patient, I've been trusting, but I see the truth now." Her eyes widened, her bitchy mask slipping just a little. Then she started with the usual bullshit. Denials, excuses that she needed someone to talk to, that it meant nothing. She told me I was paranoid, that I was just sick and imagining things, but I wasn't hearing any of it. I knew better. Then she started to get angry. "You're just jealous," she spat. "You're sick, you're paranoid, and I can't believe I married someone like you who's so insecure about his health. Maybe if you weren't so damn sick all the time, you'd understand I need support. That doesn't mean I was cheating." I couldn't believe her audacity. She's throwing my illness into my face, like it's some excuse for her to run around, cheat, and lie. I felt like my stomach was turning inside out. I told her flatly, "You don't get to blame my health for your betrayal. You're a damn cheat, lying, sneaking out, screwing around with some guy who's supposed to be fixing your DNA. And you think I'd just accept that?" Her eyes flashed with fury, that snarky, bitchy look she's perfected over the years. "Fine," she snapped. "If you want to play detective, go ahead. But you're making a huge mistake. I don't know why you're so obsessed with this. I didn't do anything wrong." I shook my head in disbelief. How could she lie so smoothly? How could she justify cheating on me when I was battling my own health issues? I told her that her lies were over, that I'd had enough, and that she needed to tell me the truth, no more bullshit. I was done being manipulated by her. She spat back. "You're just jealous I found someone who actually cares about me. Maybe you're the problem. Maybe your diagnosis has made you crazy." That hurt more than anything. She was twisting everything, turning it around to make herself the victim. But I knew better. I knew she'd been doing this for months, maybe longer. I had the proof, and I wasn't going to let her spin her lies anymore. At that moment, I realized this wasn't just about cheating. It was about respect, trust, and the fact that she'd been sneaking around, lying, betraying everything we built. I was furious, heartbroken, but also determined. I told her that I'd be removing myself from this mess, that I'd be filing for a divorce soon unless she came clean. She sat there, silent for a long moment, then sneered, "Whatever. You're just overreacting. You always do, but I don't have to justify myself to you." And that was the final straw. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I needed to get out to protect what was left of my dignity and health. I told her I'd be leaving for a bit to clear my head, and I wouldn't be coming back until I was ready. I left her standing there, furious and defiant, while I packed a bag and headed out, feeling more alone than ever. That night, I couldn't sleep. All I could think about was how she'd crossed every line, how she'd lied to my face while I was fighting for my life. I'd trusted her, loved her, and she'd thrown it all away for some cheap affair. I was done with her lies, with her manipulations. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was finally taking control, though it hurt like hell. I knew I had to be strong, because this was only the beginning of what would come next. Would you like me to continue with the next part? The days after I confronted Lisa were a blur. I stayed away from her, trying to process everything, trying to figure out what I was supposed to do next. Honestly, I felt like I'd been hit with a sledgehammer. My trust shattered, my heart aching, and this gnawing fury inside me. I knew I couldn't just walk away without doing something about it. I had to make a decision, and quickly, because my health wasn't getting any better and I needed clarity more than ever. I spent most of my time going over the evidence I'd collected. The photos, the messages, the hotel receipts. I even managed to get confirmation from a private investigator I contacted secretly, just to be sure. The guy was discreet, and he confirmed what I already knew. Lisa was definitely cheating, and she had been for quite some time. That's when I realized this wasn't just a moment of anger or betrayal. It was the end of something I thought was real. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time it had to be different. I couldn't just show up angry and accusatory. I needed to be calm, controlled, and decisive. So I scheduled a meeting at a quiet place, a neutral ground where we could talk, if she was willing. I took the evidence with me, knowing that if she lied her way out of it again, I'd have everything I needed to end this once and for all. When she arrived, Lisa looked defensive but also a little nervous. She probably sensed I had something serious to say. I laid out everything, showed her the photos, the messages, the receipts. I explained how I'd been gathering proof, how I knew about her visits to that clinic, her affair with Carter, and her lies. Her face went pale, then flushed with anger. She started twisting her words again, saying things like, "You're just jealous, you're sick and paranoid." I was only helping him with some genetic project, she insisted, trying to minimize it all, but I cut her off. "Look," I said firmly, "I didn't want to believe it, but I'm not blind. I know you've been lying, cheating, and you've been doing it behind my back while I fight for my health. You think I'm just going to forgive you, after everything?" Her eyes narrowed, her bitchy attitude returning. "You're crazy. You're making this up. You're just jealous because I'm actually happy with someone who cares about me. Maybe if you weren't so sick, you'd understand that I need someone who can give me that." That comment hit hard, but I kept my composure. I told her straight that her DNA repair story was just an excuse, a way to hide her affair. I told her I didn't want her anymore, not as a wife, not as anything. I'd be filing for divorce soon. I couldn't be with someone who lied and betrayed me so completely, especially when I was trying to save myself. She started yelling, calling me all kinds of names: paranoid, jealous, sick. She said I was the one who'd ruined everything, that I'd never understood her, that she was just trying to cope in her own way. But I didn't want to hear her excuses anymore. I told her I was done, and I meant it. I wouldn't be her fool anymore. I walked away that day feeling more exhausted than I had in a long time. It was like I'd just survived a war, one I never expected to fight. But I knew I had to protect myself, my health, and my future. I also realized that I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. She was dead to me now, at least as a wife. As I drove home, I thought about everything I'd been through: the diagnosis, the gene therapy, the betrayal. It was a lot to handle, but I knew I made the right choice. I was tired of being the victim, tired of trusting someone who only cared about herself. It was time to focus on me, on healing, and on moving forward. I decided I'd start divorce proceedings soon. I also knew I needed to rebuild my life. I'd been through so much, and this heartbreak was just another chapter, but I'd come out stronger. I always do. That night I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the ceiling. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief because I finally faced the truth, sadness because I'd lost someone I thought loved me. But I also felt determined. I had to heal now, physically and emotionally, and I had to do it on my own terms. Sometimes the worst betrayals teach us the hardest lessons. And I learned that trusting blindly isn't always safe, that you have to fight for yourself, even when it hurts, because at the end of the day, the only person responsible for your happiness is you. Would you like me to wrap up with the final part? The days that followed were a whirlwind of legal paperwork, emotional exhaustion, and a slow process of putting myself back together. The divorce went through smoothly enough. Lisa didn't contest much, probably because she knew I had all the evidence. Watching her walk out of my life was oddly relieving, even if it hurt like hell. The betrayal cut deep, but I knew I had to focus on healing, both physically from my ongoing health battles and emotionally from the wreckage of trust that had been destroyed. Living alone was an adjustment. For a while I felt numb, like I'd been drained of every ounce of hope I once had. But over time, that numbness faded. I started to reconnect with old friends, re-engage with my passion for my research, and focus on my treatment. I realized how fragile life was, especially when you're battling a genetic disease that could have taken me at any moment. That realization made me reevaluate my priorities, what truly mattered and what didn't. Looking back, I see this entire experience as a brutal but necessary wake-up call. Lisa's betrayal taught me that trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to fully repair, at least in her case. It also reminded me that I have to advocate for myself, especially when my health is involved. I can't rely on anyone else to take care of me. I have to be my own strongest supporter, my own shield. I won't lie, there was a long period of anger, sadness, and frustration. It's hard to admit that I loved her, that I trusted her with my life, and that she threw it all away for some fleeting connection with a man who was supposed to be fixing her DNA but was clearly just using her. That pain didn't go away overnight, but with each passing day, I felt my strength rebuild. Little by little, I reclaimed my confidence, my sense of worth. One thing I've learned is that betrayal can come from the people closest to you, and it cuts the deepest. But it also teaches you resilience. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, strong enough to survive the worst heartbreak and come out on the other side. Now, I focus on my health, my future, and rediscovering who I am outside of that toxic relationship. To anyone out there dealing with betrayal, whether it's infidelity, dishonesty, or broken trust, I want to say this: don't let it define you. It hurts, it's unfair, and it's damn hard to move past. But you have the power to choose your next steps. You can let it destroy you, or you can use it as a catalyst for growth. I chose the latter. I chose to rebuild, to learn, and to come out stronger. And as for my health, I'm still fighting that battle every day. But now I do it with a clearer mind, a stronger heart, and a renewed sense of purpose. I know that life is unpredictable, that people can disappoint us in ways we never imagined. But I also know that I have the strength to keep going, to keep fighting, and to find happiness again, on my own terms. So, here's what I want to say to anyone reading this. Trust is fragile, but your spirit is. Protect yourself, believe in your worth, and never let someone's betrayal rob you of your future. Because no matter how dark things seem, there's always a way forward, sometimes even when it feels like everything's falling apart. And that's what I've learned from all of this. I've learned to forgive, not for her but for myself, for trusting, for loving, for believing in a future that was only an illusion. Now I focus on what really matters: my health, my peace, and my strength. I may have lost a wife, but I haven't lost myself. And that's what counts. That's the end of my story. Thanks for listening.